Greetings, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another episode of Monday Night Must See TV with the Hudson Valley Squares. We've got in the house today from top to bottom, Butch Jones wearing his Anthem shirt. Who out there has an Anthem album? At least one. They've got a lot.
Tremendous band. God damn it. Just pick anyone and just go from there.
There you go. Ryan Scow's in the house. Rob Lasante's in the house. Our center square, Chris Allo. Bryce from Bryce Talks Metals in the house. Lynn Versace is here. And Steve Keeler from Rock Fantasy is here. Greetings, everyone. Hope you all had a great weekend. It's now Monday. We are visiting one of our favorite years in music today, 1981. An incredibly stacked year for hard rock and metal for sure. So I've asked everybody to pick their 5 favorite albums from 1981, and maybe everybody has a few honorable mentions as well. And so we'll go through, each person will go through all their 5 picks on the first turnaround, then we'll circle back for honorable mentions. So we will start, let's go Lynn, Steve, Bryce, Chris, Rob, Butch, Ryan, myself, and then we'll go one turnaround again. So ladies first, Lynn, what do you got for your 5 albums from 1981?
She's already reading off a piece of paper. Look at her. Look, and she's on mute. Hit the mute button, dumbass.
I know what that means.
No, because you know, I was literally trying so hard. I said, don't curse, don't curse. All day I'm going, I'm not going to swear. I'm not going to say one fucking F-bomb.
Oh,
And
yeah,
then Butch-
yeah.
There we go.
Say that
And then
every week, don't you?
Steve's sensitive ears.
Yes.
Gone.
But then Butch said
Ew.
something dickish, and here I am, dropping F-bombs already.
Providing a service for everybody. See?
There you go.
And
This
there's
is
the
my
list.
paper.
There's the list. What's
I
on the
have
magic
to
list?
write it down. Sorry, I don't have a brain the way Butch Jones does, everyone. So I have to write it on paper.
Not much in it. That's why it's easy to remember.
Right. There's not much in his brain. There's a lot in mine, and I can't remember
Oh.
anything. But I did, just to be nice, leave some things off, not even in my honorable mention, because I know Butch was picking them. And last time we were all together live, he got a hissy fit about that.
Well, what were the odds of you picking 83 sitting right next to me?
Whatever I did.
Awfully
And
Pick
go
your,
nice.
pick
figure.
your you should pick your absolute favorites. That's
Absolutely.
Right. So my
100%.
absolute favorite, number 1 or 5, whatever, Too Fast for Love, Motley Crue, which I'm sure you knew I was going to pick anyway.
Yeah.
Every single song on that freaking record is amazing. You can't not listen to it and move. Shut up, you. My second one, Killers, Iron Maiden. Freaking love that record. Had the tapestry, used to drape my cousin Bill, who's really good friends with Chris Allo, in that tapestry in my basement. Murders in the Rue Morgue, one of my favorite songs from that record. Love that record. Def Leppard, High and Dry, another 1981 favorite. Every song on that record, to me, is amazing
To have.
to have. Every song to have on High and Dry is me, right? And then I couldn't really, I like Paradise Theater Sticks, okay.
Oof.
But then I was like, you know, I love rock and roll, Joan Jett, because I wanted to be Joan Jett. Who didn't want to be Joan Jett back then as a
I didn't want to
female?
be Joan Jett.
I never wanted to go again. But you
Although she
quantified
probably
that.
hooked up with some really good broads. I got some good ass. So, you know, Sherry Curry. and
So
stuff,
maybe you wanted to be
that would
Joan
be
Jett.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
that'd be all right.
Or maybe you wanted to be in the room with Joan Jett and the other ass.
Sure.
Yeah,
And
because
then
the
you
cord
said-
would have been there.
Pete, if I was skinny like Joan Jett, man, I would fit in so many cool rock t-shirts.
You would,
Yeah.
man. You
Ooh,
would.
man,
And
I
those
could buy
hot
so
leather
much at Rock
pants.
Fantasy.
Thank you.
Oh,
Leather
man.
pants. But Joan Jett, and then last but not least, the goddess, Pat Benatar with Precious Time,
Hmm.
all 1981. So those are my 5, 6-ish picks. And I'll leave the aftermath to
mentions.
aftermath. And I'm not picking anything that I thought Butchie would pick.
That's so polite of
Well,
you.
that's not even true. But don't leave out Neil Giraldo, though. It's all about
You know,
Neil Giraldo.
I
on that
know, but
record.
there was other people on there that I knew that forget
No one
it.
else
I'm-
cares. Does anyone care
You
about
just made
Scott
David
Sheets?
Laszlo's night with that last pick, Lynn.
What?
I said, you just made Jamie Laszlo's night with that last pick. He is the biggest Pat Benatar fan on this earth.
Well, then I'm glad because I love Pat Benatar.
Yeah, my sister.
and I love Neil. So there you go.
Also
That's
that.
and I was 10 in 1981. So there's that.
Oh, geez, now I really feel old.
Bryce wasn't even born yet. How do you
Yeah.
think he feels?
Not for several years. My dad was a freshman in high school in
There you go.
1981. So
Right. So, you know,
Not even a twinkle.
he wasn't even a thought.
not
for
even a
twinkle.
dirty thought yet.
No.
Dad was
For the
waiting for his
record,
first
because I'm keeping
boner.
track, for the record, during Lynn's picks, we only got one cassette from Bryce. So Bryce, 1 out of 5 is slacking. Got to pick up the
sorry
pace.
about that. We'll
You
see
were
how
like
it
Mr.
goes
You were like
going
Mr.
forward.
Cassette example last week.
Yeah.
Oh, look at that. I'm sure you got more though. All right, Steve, what do you got?
How's everybody doing tonight?
Ooh.
All right. So I don't care if I pick anything that anybody else is going to pick. I'm not polite. So they want me to pick my 5 favorites from that year, and it
That
might
was
be
the
Butch's
test.
Well, it's
favorite, it
supposed to
might
always
be
be.
Chris's favorite, but you know
So you
what we
should
go
Plus, you're
with.
going second, so it really doesn't matter because hardly anybody's gone yet. So you,
Yeah, true.
Sky's the
So
limit.
Somebody's going to be mad. So my number 5 from this year is Van Halen for Fair Warning. What can you say? Mean Street is on it. Unchained. Just love that record. And I'll keep it short and sweet. Number 4 is Ozzy Osbourne, The Diary of a Madman. And my songs, I'm going to pick 3 off of that: Over the Mountain, Sato, and Believer.
Now the
And
title track? Wow.
the title track, I guess, could go in there too. I didn't pick that in the 3 though.
All right. All right.
My number 3 album is Black Sabbath, Mob Rules, and Falling Off the Edge of the World, and the title track, and Country Girl. I mean, it's a great album, head to toe. Probably could be number 1 some days, but it's number 3 on my list today. Number 2, I'm going with Iron Maiden, Killers, A Wrathchild, Murders in the Rue Morgue, and the title track, Killers. A great album. I got to see that tour, so I was pretty lucky. I got to see Mob Rules tour. I got to see Diary of a Madman tour too. So got pretty lucky on all those. And my number 1 is not exactly a metal album, but it's Rush, Moving Pictures. That's the one I think that I've listened to the most from back in this year. I probably have wore out several copies of whatever format of that album. Camera Eye, Witch Hunt, Red Barchetta are the 3 songs I'm picking from Rush, and I have a few honorable mentions when you loop back around.
There's only 6 songs on it. Might as well say the other 3.
Might as well say all 3, all 6
Knock
of
them
them.
all out.
All album.
See what I mean?
The
Isn't
7?
Moving Pictures 7, 4 on side 1 and 3 on side 2? Isn't that it?
It
Yeah.
could be. I thought it was. I'm just guessing with 6.
Close.
yeah, so, yeah. Bryce,
All right. So I've got a couple that are the same as Steve's, but I'm going to keep them on here anyways because they're great albums. But
Bryce isn't going to let us down. I already know it. I know Bryce is bringing the heat right here.
yeah,
Give it
I've-
to us, Bryce.
I did this. Yeah, I did this list a couple years ago. It's changed quite a bit. I've got some like pretty obscure ones that I'll just say for the honorable mentions. But number 5, I'm going to go with Intensities and 10 Cities,
Wow,
Ted
Jesus
Nugent.
Christ, he's
Wow.
already off the. Wow.
So this one is yeah, this one's super unique and cool. I don't know if anybody else that I know of has done an album like this. It's a live album, but it's basically a live studio album. So the band played like 20 new songs they were toying with on that tour. Then they picked like the 10 favorite songs and put them on this album. So it's a live studio album. There's some super cool deep cuts on here. Put Up or Shut Up is amazing. Really heavy song. Spontaneous Combustion's great. Heads Will Roll has a pretty cool music video with it. Yeah, great songs all over it. It's the last one with Cliff Davies, which was his drummer from the solo debut up through this, which is kind of what I classify as the classic lineup, classic era. But yeah, great stuff there. Love Ted.
Pick one, and he's not disappointing already.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. My number 4, I'm going to go with Diary of a Madman. Gotta have it. Randy Rhoads was amazing. It's a shame that he passed away when, I don't know, was he, how old was he? 25, 26?
25.
So my age, exactly. I'm 25. It's a shame. Great guitarist. Ozzy's voice, of course, is really cool. Over the Mountain to open it up. That drum intro to start it is just amazing. Legendary song. Love SATO, and probably Flying High Again is my favorites. Number 3, got Fair Warning. Gotta have it again. Classic album. Mean Street is definitely a top 5 Van Halen song. Just absolutely epic and amazing when it hits that main riff. It's the 68th birthday today of Diamond Dave, so happy birthday to him. Probably the best, maybe the best front man of all time, best showman. Yeah, Unchained is amazing. Center Swing, super cool, underrated song. Number 4, Butch, I think you're gonna like this one. Or number 2, I don't know what I'm saying here, but number 2, I got Fire Down Under, Riot, the Mighty Tior, probably one of the worst like metal mascots, but it's kind of funny.
Do you know what his name is?
That's really
Yeah,
funny.
the Mighty Tior. But yeah, guys,
No.
dude,
There's
guys,
another name too, right? Butch?
There's another name. There's another name. Like
Is there
Only
another
known
Renegade?
by Tior.
Tior, Mighty Tior, I don't know.
No, there was it's like a regular name.
Muscle Seal? I don't know.
Muscle
and-
seal.
And
I
I'm
don't know.
asking, and I'm teasing you, but because I actually forget it. But I know, but it's like
It's
a
not
regular,
like Gossamer.
Google
no,
it.
it's not.
No, that's
it's
from
like,
fucking Looney Tunes.
it's like
I
Scott
know,
or
but-
something like it's something. It's like I have to look it up. It's just like a regular everyday name. Is what they call
Yeah.
it.
I couldn't tell you, but Mark Reale,
I'm gonna
one of
cheat,
the
look.
all-time most underappreciated guitar players. RIP to him. Guy Speranza on vocals, first 3 albums. Freaking amazing voice, very melodic. All these songs.
Oh,
it's a
Jesus
great,
Christ.
dude. It's a great album to drive to. I think just turn up the title track or Outlaw, any of the songs. Absolutely fantastic. And my number 1,
Wait, wait,
gotta
hold
go.
on, wait, before you go, I'm sorry, Bryce. I looked up his name. I told you it was something. You know what the mascot's name was? And I'm mad that I forgot this. It's Johnny.
Johnny.
The mascot's name was Johnny.
Let's do it for Johnny.
I know he goes by the
John,
Tior as well, but you know.
nice that Butch used Google, everyone.
I had to. I
Yeah.
knew it, but I forgot. I knew it was
Birth
something
certificate
easy.
says Johnny, but his mama calls him Tito.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Tior.
No
But
matter how you look at it, it's still a terrible mascot.
It's still
it
awful.
is. It's pretty
It's still the
bad.
worst mascot ever.
Oh, it's ridiculous.
That's probably why I never bought that album.
It's a
It's a
great,
great
fucking
album.
though.
Great album. Yeah.
I have it.
Amazing.
Tremendous. It's perfect.
And my number 1, I got Mob Rules. Got to be Black Sabbath. I love the Dio era. I prefer Dio over Ozzy when it comes to Sabbath, but legendary album. Not much more to say about it. I mean, Iommi, the riff god. Voodoo, I think, is one of his coolest riffs. Just opening up the song, very very tasty riff, and just all over the album, great stuff. So that is my number 1, Mob Rules.
Nice.
Did not let me down, buddy.
Cool.
Appreciate it.
All right, Chris.
Okay. Yeah. Like everybody said, 1981 was a pretty amazing year. And looking back, it's like, wow, yeah, that really was a fucking amazing year. There are tons of great records. I picked a couple that maybe nobody else picked, and a couple that I'm sure everyone else will have. Venom, Welcome to Hell. This is a picture disc I picked up, original pressing picture disc I picked up not too long ago. But man, talk about one of the most influential metal bands ever. And yeah, that was their start. As Bryce mentioned, my most purchased. Why have I got that echo?
I don't hear it.
Chris, I'll, yeah. It
Is
just,
your volume up too
Echo.
loud? Your volume. Oh, Jesus Christ. Volume. Right near you might be too loud.
Let me make it lower, man. I'm fucking deaf. I can't.
It
hear.
sounds okay now.
yeah, it
Yeah.
just came in
I don't
late.
hear an echo.
These are my most my most purchased album is of course Mob Rules. It's my favorite record of all time. These are the last 2 pressings I got from Steve at Rock Fantasy. But yeah, it's just a masterpiece and my all-time favorite record. This one is not a rock record, but fuck it. It's one of my favorite soundtracks, and it's a crossover episode because me and Pete talk monsters every Thursday. I have this record 4 times. This was the only version I could find. Lucio Fulci's The Beyond, his the Fabio Frizzi soundtrack for Lucio Fulci's The Beyond, which is one of my top 10 favorite horror movies of all time.
Awesome
I
movie.
seen Frizzi in concert twice play the Beyond score, and it's pretty amazing.
I've never even heard of the movie.
I don't even know what the hell that is.
It's very
It's a horror
Italian.
movie from 1981, and if you don't like horror, it's probably not for you.
Yeah.
No, I don't mind horror. I just never heard it.
But that was at me.
Yeah, it's a bit it's kind of like a zombie movie and a haunted house movie, but because it's Italian, it's from the 80s, it's completely incoherent. Not completely, but you know,
The plot makes fuck all sense, but I love it. I love it. But
doesn't
it
make
makes
a lot of
fucking
sense,
no
but it is a
sense.
masterpiece.
Yeah, it's
All right,
really
who's
good.
making the popcorn? That's a movie night.
Come on over. I got it on Blu-ray and DVD and Laserdisc.
Okay.
But yeah, it's a good one. Another one from 1981. Sadly, this the vocalist is long gone. Wendy Williams from the Plasmatics. They came out with their second record, Beyond the Valley of 1984, which is a great record. Has classics like Master Plan and Headbanger, and it's one of the few bands that I could say I never saw live, and it really bugs me. And one of my other favorite bands, they came out with their debut album in 1982, but they preceded it in 1981 with an EP. Of course, I talk about this band all the time, the Misfits. They came out with an EP, 3 Hits from Hell, which of course has the some great horror movie stuff like Horror Hotel, Ghouls Night Out, and one of my favorite songs to play at Halloween, London Dungeon. So yeah, those are my top 5 from 1981.
Nice.
Cool.
Rob.
All right. Well, like Chris just said, this is a tough year because there's so much good stuff that came out in 81. Number 1 for me will always be Van Halen, Fair Warning, because Van Halen for me was life-changing. I remember getting the album, going home. I must have played it like 20 times that day. And then back in those days, we used to actually tape our albums and then put them in the car and go hang out in the car, drink a couple brewskis, and that's what we used to do in those days. And just listen to the album all night. I mean, till like 2 o'clock in the morning. And so Fair Warning for me was it's a classic album for me, and I still listen to it like regularly. I mean, it's always on my playlist, especially if I'm walking or whatever. Number 2 for me, everybody's pretty much gonna have this one, is Ozzy, of course, Diary of Madman. Best song on there is Diary of Madman, a masterpiece in my opinion. Solo in there, everything about that album is great. The first 3 songs alone are just they blow me away, and I've always loved that album. And of course, Randy was ahead of his time. Unfortunately, we lost him right after this album. Def Leppard for me, High and Dry.
Mm-hmm.
I saw Def Leppard in 1980 with AC/DC at the Palladium. They opened up for AC/DC, and that's how I got into Def Leppard, and I became a fan instantly. And this album was just an incredible album.
Right.
I don't think there's one bad song on this album, except for maybe the last one, No, No, No. That's the only
Oh,
song.
that's still cool.
But it's still cool. It's just, the album is great. So that's another one. And of course, you guys all picked this one, Black Sabbath, Mob Rules. So that's another one. I remember running to the store on Tuesday, because Tuesday was release day, and I would go to the store and wait online outside if I had to, if there was people waiting for the store to open, and I would buy albums. And this was one of the albums that I bought that day. And I remember going home and just my buddy Rob, and we just played it all day, and going to see Black Sabbath, on that tour, was, unfortunately, I don't remember too much about it, but I do remember going. And my last album, this was hard because I haven't even mentioned some of my diehards, but Rush Moving Pictures for me was another one. Rush, I was into Rush since '76 when 2112 came out, but when this album came out, it changed everything. I mean, especially for Rush, but even for me. I mean, just listening to every song on there. Camera Eye for me is like my favorite song on the album. Most people like all the hit songs. I love Camera Eye. I mean, the drumming that Neil Peart did on that album, on that song, is incredible. And, every song on there is great. So those are my 5 picks as of now, and then the honorable mentions later.
Chris, I'm sure you love it when someone has said they went to see a tour that you desperately wish you could have gone to see, and then they're like, but I don't really remember much of it, right?
That's the one, man. If I could trade, a huge chunk of my concert memories for any one show, that would Sabbath on the Mob Rules tour. But yeah, how Rob could forget any But you know, listen, it was
No,
the
I don't mean
80s.
I forgot. What I'm saying is it's still, hey,
It's
I don't
a long
remember
time
everything.
ago. I totally
I
get
just know it was great.
Right. No, I hear you. But like I had a rule. Anytime I ever saw Sabbath, which was like close to 50 times, I didn't drink. I never drank because I always wanted to remember.
Oh, man.
That was the only band I ever did that with.
That's
That
one,
is,
I used
that
to
is
get fucked up.
dedication.
Used to get fucked up at a lot of Slayer shows, but Sabbath, no, they were. I was dry.
That's
I can tell you,
dedication.
I'm just the opposite. Every Black Sabbath show I drank.
I did too.
I mean, I didn't get that got drunk. I didn't remember them, but I was there.
There's shows I don't remember I was at except for the fucking ticket stuff. I'm like,
Oh my God,
And that's
that's
the worst
terrible.
part with nowadays. You don't even
a
get
long
a
time
yeah.
ago.
stub.
Long time
That's
ago.
terrible.
Just ticket stub, no?
Long time ago. It happened.
I never
Listen,
did that. I was
19,
never hammered at a show.
I was 19. It was wild and crazy days those days. So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I was the driver.
If I wasn't driving,
I was always the driver.
it happens.
All right, Butch, what do you got?
Well, I'm going to take a different approach with this a little bit. I mean, it's 1981. Everyone watching knows the songs by now, so I'm not going to read off different great songs and all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to go a different route and say that these 5 records have 5 of my most important album producers. These guys have made so many records that make up everything that I love. So I'm going to mention them. But I'm going to pull a Pardo right from the beginning because this as normally when we do these things is really painful for me to have to push something out of the 5 that really should be in the 5. And then this one, the 81, there could have been 15 that could have been in this 5. So it's really, really hard. So I'm pulling a Pardo and starting with this. So we're going to have a tie for 5. So we have David
It's not
Madman.
allowed.
So Randy, Max
Knew that.
Norman, my favorite producer of all time. Max Norman produced this one. That's why Randy's guitar sounds so awesome. Tied with that for number 5 is my favorite Sabbath album because Ronnie could do no wrong in this. So I always say, listen to just to me, and that's Martin Birch, by the way. I'm sorry, Martin Birch. But one of the highlights on that is to me is always just a little bit in Sign of the Southern Cross where he's singing so peaceful and tranquil and sounds so nice and cuddly, and then he holds that note and he goes from nice and neat, nice and happy, and just holds that note and gets mean and just becomes Ronnie all in that same breath. And you're like, oh my God, that is just, oh my God. So those 2 are number 5. So number 4, the album that when we were growing up as kids, you saw the album cover, you had to have it.
Had to have it.
I don't know what's inside it, but look at the album cover, it's got to be cool. And then when you look
And
at the back,
yep, and the
oh yeah,
back.
okay, they're okay. Look at that. They have to be cool. I got to get this. And I'm gonna break my own rule now by just saying this. Listen to Innocent Exile and listen to Steve Harris with that, because that to me is why Steve Harris is my number 1 bass player of all time. And anytime I listen to Maiden, it's always about Harris and not about Murray and Smith, even though I love them both.
I think that's the coolest Eddie too of all the million.
It
Yeah.
kind of, you know
It
what?
is.
It kind
It
of
is. It is.
It's kind of it's simplistic.
Yeah.
You know,
I
the
just
hats
bought
and
that
everything.
T-shirt too. recently.
That's a badass one. You're absolutely
That's a
right.
great Eddie.
My
Yep.
mom actually even liked that Eddie with the had the
Wow.
big tapestry.
There's a lot of Eddies.
There's a lot of Eddies.
There's a
And,
lot of
you know,
fucking
we,
Eddies.
we've said it before. It's
Yeah.
amazing that Maiden, you know, of course, are still touring at such a huge level. They have so much merch, but yet on all these tours, they still do often do a Killers shirt with whatever the current tour dates are.
Yeah.
In the back.
Don't
It is
blame 'em.
such an. I mean, they really.
Iconic.
It's
Yeah.
iconic.
Such an amazing,
Fucking
amazing.
iconic.
Yep.
For sure.
But yet they rarely play anything off. If you get Wrathchild, that's it.
Oh, don't even go down that path.
Yeah.
Bastards.
Like, no, we don't need to go there.
Yeah.
And that's also produced by Martin Birch as well.
Yep.
So you got Mob Rules and Killers by Martin Birch. And honestly, my top 5 was going by the 5 records from '81 that I've listened to the most.
Oh, okay.
And there's records in there that are really, really fucking close. That could probably push a couple of these out, maybe, but I didn't think so. So I'm going with these 5. So that's 4. So number 3, Moving Pictures, without a doubt. I was already a huge Rush fan by this time. This record just came out, and even though it was the record that made them from being my band to becoming everybody's band, and that kind of irked me a little bit. People that 2 years before, I don't like the guy's voice, he sings too high. And then all of a sudden, oh, Tom Sawyer, they're fucking awesome. I love
Yeah,
them.
yeah.
Go fuck yourself.
Totally.
I tried telling you about Rush on fucking Hemispheres. You wanted nothing to do with it. And this was produced by Terry Brown, who was the best producer for Rush, because he's the guy. And then we get to, this isn't the right, this just happens to be sitting there. I didn't put this there for anything, but if you can see that, you can see
Betty.
Edward. That's actually Eddie, because that's Diver Down. He was no longer Edward there.
Yeah,
But on this record, he was Edward still. He was Edward on this one. God damn it. I remember getting this record. Ted Templeman produced this one. I remember getting this album and putting my stereo, and putting the speaker in the window and wedging it in the window. I'm playing wiffle ball outside and listening to that, and I had never heard it. So I just got it, and it comes to center swing, like Bryce mentioned earlier, and he swears in it. And I came running into the house because my mom was home to go and turn it down and turn it off, because I didn't know if there was going to be more swearing. And I've never really sworn in front of my mother, even to this day. And it probably wouldn't have bothered her, but it bothered me as a kid of 81, 14. So it bothered me that I thought that my mom would get mad that they were swearing, and she probably wouldn't have, but it bothered me. So I kept running in to stop David Lee Roth from swearing. Oh, you can't swear, my mom's home. But I'll always remember that. But that record, that is a beyond classic. It's definitely still not my favorite Van Halen record. Bryce has my favorite behind his shoulder there. Yeah, boy. But it is a stone cold classic and an album everyone should own. And there's only one album that could ever be my number one for 1981. The album I talk about all the time and post stuff all the time in the butcher shop, just because you have to, is Def Leppard High and Dry. A perfect fucking record. An album cover done by the great Hypnosis. They have the coolest album covers of the 70s and 80s, without a doubt. And you have to have this album. This has to be number one, because that guy right there, Pete fucking Willis. Pete Willis, he was such a huge part of Def Leppard, and a big reason why they changed and Pete wasn't in the band anymore. But God, that is a perfect record. He does some phenomenal guitar playing on that album. It's just a perfect record to me. It's just. Can
it be just Pete Willis?
Pete Willis.
Well, what if it's not? What if it's Pete fucking Willis?
No, but it's not, because it's Cozy fucking Powell. You can't use Cozy fucking Pete. Everyone can't have fit in the middle of the name.
You can share middle names.
No, you can't share it.
I say Tommy fucking Aldridge too. So
well, that's a drummer. You know.
It's only a drummer. Just the other day, I was saying Pat fucking Travers.
Exactly.
Pat Travers. You know, Tommy fucking Aldridge, who played with Pat fucking Travers back in the day.
Yeah, High and Dry Def Leppard, produced by Mutt Lange.
I don't like the album cover. Sorry.
Well, it's not supposed to make sense.
I just don't like it. It's weird.
Most of them
I love the album. It was my favorite album ever for the longest time. The cover's weird.
I think that was their thing, is that it didn't make sense, but they were always iconic and like memorable.
Yeah. When you ever see the Hypnosis album covers don't make a hill of
sense. Did I ever see what?
Except for Love Drive. That one makes total
sense. That's what I was gonna say. You ever see the cover for Scorpions Love Drive?
That makes a lot of sense.
You know what I'm talking? You know what we're talking about with the bubble gum on the
I don't know.
You don't know.
Bubblegum titties.
Google Love Drive right now.
Okay.
So you can see.
Bubblegum titties.
None of their album covers make any sense to what the album is about.
They go good on a T-shirt and they go good on like a flag, like a black flag.
An album cover.
Yeah.
Yep.
What the fuck?
You've seen that before.
And there you go. Lynn just saw Love Drive from Scorpions
for the first time.
It's not for the first time. I
forgot.
I didn't like it then. I feel like I want to wipe gum off my boob or something.
That is the great. I remember
what?
I remember buying that album at Book and Record in Wappinger Falls and having it in a brown paper bag. My mother went next door to the ShopRite, and I went and bought that. And I had
to hide it from her.
Yeah, I had to make sure she didn't see it.
I bet
she probably wouldn't have cared, but
my mom would have blacked it out.
Wow.
All right.
You come to my house.
No bueno.
Ryan's not going to let us down neither. I know Ryan's got
Yeah,
some
what
good
we
ones
got,
up his
Ryan?
sleeve.
I've
I
got,
mean,
I've
Let's
got
go,
Nick's
Ryan.
too. I've got Nick's stuff too.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I took a slightly different tact. I like what Butch did with the producers. I don't know if this is pulling a Pardo, pulling a Catino, pulling a Keeler. But I made a big, I don't even fucking know. So I made a big list. Obviously, it's a great year. I made a huge list of albums. And narrowing this down to 5 was even harder than 1984. So I said, fuck it. I'm going to pick the 5 I've been listening to the most the last couple of weeks, you know, at late, which end up being 5 of my favorites anyways. But you know what? There's a whole bunch on here that I'm surprised nobody's picked. And of my top 5, only 1 was picked by somebody.
They're all in the honorable mentions.
I was just gonna
Well,
say.
no,
they're
even
all
honorable
honorable
mentions, even the
mentions.
ones Nick picked. I mean, there's some that weren't mentioned. I'm kind of surprised, but all right. So when you said 1981, the first thing that popped in my head was, man, that was one of the best years for the new wave of British heavy metal.
Oh God.
Obviously, you got Maiden and Def Leppard. They're two of probably the biggest bands to ever come out of that style. But we'll get to that. So my first one, going over to England, we'll start in England. It's hardcore punk band, my favorite one of all time. Huge influence on thrash metal, black metal, death metal. This was their 4th EP, but like their first big EP. So this is Discharge, and it's the Y EP. So it's 10 songs though. It's pretty generous for an EP. But man, along 81, I think the only band this heavy, Venom and Motorhead. And you
Wait,
talk to a lot
I
of
have
people.
to ask a question.
What up?
If it's an EP and it's 10 songs, how long are the songs? A minute and a half?
Well, it's a hardcore punk album, so like the first, they're short. A minute and
30
a half.
seconds.
You know what? I don't think there's not a single song over 2 minutes. So there you go.
Exactly.
Yeah, right to the point. No, it's pretty short.
This is exactly what I was thinking.
And they had their full length album would come out the next year. My favorite punk album of all time. This one is right on its ass though. Really, really good. Yeah, all Metallica, Slayer, all those guys. These guys were a huge influence on them. Metallica covered Free Speech for the Dumb on the Garage Inc. album in '98. So those guys got around.
Well, how many songs does the full album have? 36?
It's like 20. I have to look. It's but the same thing. The songs are short, so it's like in and out, you know. Hit you right in the head. We're gonna stay in England, but we're gonna go to a completely different sound. This might have been the biggest selling album of all the bands mentioned, maybe except for Van Halen. I don't know, but I don't know. I'm gonna go with the Police, Ghost in the Machine.
Oh,
Wow.
Favorite Ghost album. Stuart
Awesome.
Copeland, a fucking beast.
best drummer I think I've ever seen.
Great
I mean,
album.
I'll pick some songs on this because it ends up just being my favorite album by them. But Spirits in the
I did
Material
not see
World,
this coming, buddy. I did not see that coming.
Invisible
No, you
Sun,
didn't.
Rehumanize Yourself. Yeah, I mean they only had a couple albums. They were
Secret
all good.
Journey. Secret Journey.
Secret Journey. Yep, second to last song. They only had a couple albums. They weren't around that many years. All the albums they did were great, but this one to me is my favorite and the most iconic. Maybe Synchronicity on some days, but generally this one's number 1 for me.
You know what? And it's funny you say that. You're right. They didn't do many albums, but for a 3 or 4 years, maybe they were like the biggest band in the world.
Oh, they were on top of it. That's what I'm saying. I maybe Van Halen, but I had to put money on it without knowing. I'd say that's probably the biggest selling album.
That sold more than Van Halen.
By far,
guarantee it. I guarantee it did.
So we're gonna. Oh fuck! You know what? I just realized all 5 of my picks are English. All right,
shit.
then. We're gonna stay in England. We're gonna invoke another nice guy with the middle name of fucking. We're gonna go John fucking Sykes. Tigers of Pang
you
Tang.
gave it to me.
Spellbound. Spellbound. These guys had a lot of great albums, but to me, this is their peak. Like I said, this is a great year for new British heavy metal. And this to me is one of the highlights of that genre. You know, John's guitar playing on this is just, off the fucking charts. Really, really good. Obviously, right after this, he played with Thin Lizzy for a little bit. Also great, but he was not in Thin Lizzy 1981. He was Tigers of Pang Tang.
He kills on that fucking record, dude.
Absolutely off the fucking charts. I'm not even going to name songs on it.
Look at
Although
Lynn. Lynn can't contain herself.
the first song, Gangland, is a fucking burner.
Yes, it is.
We're going to stay in England. We're going to stay New Wave of British Heavy Metal. One of my favorite New Wave albums of all time. I was lucky to see them once in Montreal a couple of years ago. They played the little festival I used to like to go up there. And that is The Nightcomers by Holocaust. Normally the color cover is blue, but this is a cool reissue with a red cover. The horseman going to the sky there. Yeah, to me, this is an iconic album of that era, of that time. Smoke and Valves, Death or Glory. The 7th song is kind of like one of those heavy metal called Arms, Heavy Metal Mania. If you like just that general era of music, old Maiden, Saxon, you know, that old new wave
Oh,
stuff.
now I have
And you don't know this album, The Nightcomers by Holocaust? Check this the
Don't know
fuck
that
out.
one.
This is a
Check it
great,
out.
great album.
I
I
don't
know
know it. Now I gotta check
I
it.
know
It
the
is.
logo. I've seen the logo. I've never listened to them though.
It's just,
Now we
they
gotta
were,
listen.
So good.
they were like one of those second tier bands. They didn't get as famous as some of the other ones, but not the most obscure new wave. Like they were right in the middle. Like not obviously not as big as
Second
Saxon
tier.
and stuff, but and they did a whole bunch of stuff after this. I don't like anything else as much as the debut, but this first album is it's fucking great. And then I'm gonna stay in England for the last one. You know,
Oh, I know what this is, I think.
well, it's actually not Maiden, although I did come close, but
No.
I think going by the ones I've been listening to the most, it's Welcome to Hell by Venom. which
I knew
Oh,
that.
it's not what I was
I knew
thinking.
that. I knew that.
I love, and you know, this is my favorite Venom album, although the first three are great. But to me, yeah, this started black metal, death metal, thrash metal. This is like the godfather of everything, you know. Obviously, Motorhead's older, and Motorhead, I guess, is the real godfather. But these guys kind of kicked it off like in that little niche. So
Like the Godfather's Godfather.
that's, and then I'm going to pick Nick's. So Nick obviously picked Killers. You know, you can't go wrong with that. Mob Rules. He also picked Nightcomers. Also picked Welcome to Hell. And then he picked an album which I didn't think about. The opening song is one of the best songs they ever did, but the rest of the album is not my favorite for them, and that's Renegade by Thin Lizzy. Angel of Death.
The first two
Yeah.
two songs are great.
I agree. Angel of Death is one of the greatest songs ever, but it's not a bad album, but to me, it's not one of their best. So
No, it's the Snow White era. It's good.
it's just good. But
Yeah.
I throw Angel of Death on a lot of mixes. So those were Nick's, and we'll come back to the honor.
Wow. Wow. Nick picked Lizzy and I didn't.
Yeah, and he said that. I'm like,
Yeah.
you know what? I like Renegade.
Yeah.
You heard it here first.
You heard it here first, folks. They just have so many better albums.
And he used Google.
Well, I it was bugging me about Johnny. I knew it was something easy. Wow, you picked wow, out of everything out there, you picked Renegade. Wow.
He picked Renegade.
Wow.
It's okay.
Right.
Hey, it's good they got
Go,
it.
Nick.
All right, so let's see here. Yeah, I mean, mine kind of predictable.
Got
but
any left, Peter?
Nobody's mentioned this one. I'm shocked. My number
Honorable
5
mention.
is Fire of
Honorable
Unknown
mention.
Origin.
Oh, I was
Yours
so
No, I
close.
wasn't gonna mention
It
that.
was close.
No, I was not mentioning.
Another
it.
Martin Birch album too.
Yes,
Another
it
Martin
is.
Birch album, right?
Definitely
All of
not
mine on
mentioning
tour.
that.
Great songs on here. You know, some classics. Burn It For You, obviously. Veteran of Psychic Wars. George Shepherd. I mean, so many great songs on there. I love that album. Next
The album
four-
before that, that's the shit.
Oh, of course, Cultosaurus Erectus for sure.
Oh, yeah.
I'm gonna go Killers number 4. I still remember the day I saw this in Record World in
Mhm.
Middletown, and I was like, I don't know who these guys are. I think I saw it in one of the metal magazines. I'm gonna buy it because yeah, I love horror shit and I love that, and I love live pictures of bands on the back and flames and stuff. And I brought it home. I'm like, yes, this totally lives up to the outside. The music was just great. Number 3, I'm gonna go with Diary of a Madman. Still to this day, my favorite Ozzy album, and it's not even close. Randy's incredible on here. So good songs, title track, Over the Mountain, Flying High Again. It's just classic. Number 2, I'm gonna go with Rush, Moving Pictures. I know this is the reissue. This, and for those of you who haven't heard it, the reissue has what is arguably one of the great Rush live albums that finally got released. The Montreal show from this tour, incredible. Makes worth getting this. You know, don't even hesitate. It's really great. So yeah, I mean, I was already a Rush fan when Moving Pictures came out, but that made me like a huge Rush fan. So absolutely love it. And then I got to go with Mob Rules for number 1. Another Martin Birch production here. This, you know, I tend to lean to Heaven and Hell ever so slightly on my favorite of the two, but this has the better production.
Yeah, it does.
I think this has got the beefy Martin Birch production that Sabbath should have had on Heaven and Hell. Not that Heaven and Hell is bad sounding, but this album is immense sounding. Really great. Classic songs on here. So,
You know, and it's funny you say that because I've always wondered that. You know, Martin Birch produced both records, and how could one sound so different from the other from the same guy? It's like so night and day.
you know what? Those two Blorstical albums are the same thing. They both sound very different from each other. I don't know what it is, but yet you listen to a lot of those Maiden albums and they have a similar sound to them. The old Whitesnake albums all kind of sound the same. So
But now that you say that, that's a great point too, because he did the 2 Rainbow records. He did Rising and Long Live Rock and Roll, and those sound completely different.
Yep.
Yeah.
Very strange.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
Shut up, Lynn. What's Lynn
Right.
laughing about now?
Because you said completely different. You sounded like fucking Peter Brady on an episode of the Brady Bunch.
Times
But
have
his voice
changed.
has changed. That's
Lynn, sometimes when guys get excited when they're talking about something, that happens to their voices. It just happens.
This is
I'm
not news
sorry.
either. This ain't like a new
I know.
revelation.
It's a thing. I'm sorry.
It's definitely a thing.
I'm sorry.
Late stage puberty, I guess, right? I don't know.
It just pops in when you least fucking expect it.
All right, so I guess we'll rattle off a couple honorable mentions, everybody. All right, Lynn, back to you.
All right. Okay.
You might have to go back.
I'm verklempt. I'm
We have to
verklempt.
circle back to Lynn. She's
Talk amongst yourselves.
I'm all right. I'm okay. Yeah. I just won't look at Butch. I can't look at his face.
When it's time to
Cover up the screen.
rearrange.
See what I mean? This fucking asshole. All right. I can't. All right. I picked Mob Rules in my honorable mentions. And I picked Moving Pictures by Rush. And I picked Fair Warning. So I thought those were already said, but I did pick them. But then I picked Denim and Leather by Saxon because I think
Yeah.
that's a great record.
Brought us together.
I also picked Allied Forces. What do you say?
I was actually, you know what? I was just fucking looking for that Triumph album.
He
as you
said
sent
the
it.
lyric. He said the lyric to Saxon. That's what he
Got it right.
Denim and Leather brought us all together.
Brought us all together.
Oh, I thought that was Whips and Chains. I'm sorry.
Wrong song.
Yes, Denim and Leather.
There we go.
Anyway, Allied Forces, Triumph.
Bryce has got it.
I had to dig
Yes,
it up. You
there
know, it's
you go.
alphabetized.
So I
should
do
go
have
fucking
that.
Find it.
But you know, happy Thanksgiving to our Canadian pals, right? Triumph, Canadian band. Journey Escape, because I'm a
Yep.
huge Journey fan and I love
Yep.
Journey. So Journey Escape,
That's
point
sold
of
a couple.
entry, Judas Priest, point of entry, because fucking Rob Halford.
Yep.
Or
It's one of
Rob
my
fucking
favorites.
Halford. Can
I
I
love
use
that
that? I don't
record.
know. And believe it or not, Molly Hatchet, Take No Prisoners, because I actually like Molly Hatchet.
Good album.
Um, and last but not least, Randall mentions MSG, Michael Schenker Group. And again, several people I know are lucky enough to go see them. My friend just toured Europe with them, played with them, band opened for them. Lucky him.
And who
that's
played
it.
drums on that album?
Cozy fucking Powell.
That's right.
There you go.
And then that middle name gets around.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, anyway, in any event, Michael Schenker's a god and I love him. So that's it. That's my honorable mentions.
Cool.
Good.
Steve.
Michael Schenker is going to be right down the road from Middletown.
I
2 weeks.
just said my friends are going to see them.
Why
meaning
can't you? Why can't I mean you can still
Where?
go. It's on a couple
Because
weeks off.
I
yet.
work. I
Where?
have I always work
Playing Stroudsburg at Sherman Theater, 27th.
I ain't going there.
because I'm going to see Steve Vai that night.
It's easy
If
from
I don't,
my house.
if I
Well,
don't work
anyhow,
Steve Vai,
we-
I'm going. to
I'm
see-
supposed to go see Steve Vai too at Portchester.
Yes, I'm either working it or I'm going. So
All right, so I've got a couple honorable mentions here that I don't think anyone's mentioned this record yet. AC/DC, for those about to rock. We salute you. And thought that was a pretty strong record, and I'm surprised no one's mentioned it yet. But anyhow, title track, Evil Walks. Girls School, Hit and Run.
ooh,
I
Billy Johnson.
used to love Girls School back in those days. I went and saw them at clubs, and they had so much energy on stage, and they were one of my favorite bands back then. Aloe mentioned the Plasmatics. They also put out Metal Priestess that year as EP, and what a killer record that was. My soundtrack for that year, Heavy Metal, the
Oh,
movie soundtrack.
fuck.
Mm.
Good call.
I also had Venom. I also mentioned
Okay.
Journey Escape, even though I probably didn't like Journey Escape then, but that's an
What?
album that sold a ton of records.
Sure did. I saw them
a
on
good
that show.
record. It's a good record.
Oh yeah. And that probably wraps up my portion of the show. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for showing up, Steve.
Thank you for coming. Come again.
Steve Keeler over and out.
Yeah.
Pretty soon.
Yeah, Bryce.
Well, I've got a couple of pretty underrated new wave of British heavy metal ones. I'll give a little bit of love to the original Iron Maiden vocalist, Paul Day. He was in a band called More, More, and they put out their debut album Warhead, which is really cool. Their guitarist actually just passed away earlier this year, Kenny
Oh.
Cox. So RIP to him. But
Oh.
that's a underrated gem from the new wave of British heavy metal. Also, Gaskin, End of the World, another really, really great one. Yeah, I know Ryan knows this, but the opening song, Sweet Dream Maker, just has an amazing riff, very sharp, amazing guitar tone from Paul Gaskin, the guitarist. A really cool Swedish EP. I'm going to go with Heavy Load Metal Conquest. Yep.
Now we're talking. This
Oh,
guy
yeah.
knows.
Yeah,
Had
great,
that one.
I got
great
that
stuff.
somewhere on the fucking shelf there.
Yeah,
Kid
people
does not
refer,
disappoint.
yeah, they're great. Some people refer to them as like the first Swedish metal band. They had an album out in 78. So they kind of got it all started over there. And then you had Europe and 220 Volt and all those bands come on after them. But point of entry as well. I think this is a fantastic album. It gets kind of, overlooked slightly. I know it's Judas Priest. They're like one of the biggest metal bands, but being sandwiched between Screaming for Vengeance and British Steel, I actually prefer this over British Steel.
Yeah.
There's a lot of great underrated stuff on here. Desert Plains is amazing.
Fucking love Desert Plains. So-
Yes, Solar Angels is great.
Yeah.
Really, really awesome album. And yeah, I'll leave the rest to y'all, but those were a couple of my honorable mentions.
Chris.
Nice.
Only one that I thought of that nobody else mentioned, I don't think, was Difficult to Cure from Rainbow.
Mm.
I think that's
On my
a,
list.
that's a
Good
really
choice.
good record. And yeah, I think that's the only one that wasn't touched upon.
Mm.
And that one does not feature Cozy Fucking Powell. So
Or
Any way,
Ryan
shape, or
Gainesville.
form.
Has Bobby fucking
Bobby
Rondinelli.
Rondinelli. Rob.
All right. Well, I figured the honorable mentions would have been mentioned. So, of course, for me, number one honorable mentions Judas Priest, as Bryce was just saying. I mean, the album is, to me, it's one of the weaker albums back then, but it was still a great album. And that tour was the first time I saw Maiden and Priest together in '81 down at Asbury Park.
Man.
Number two was Killers, of course. Killers, like you guys all said, I played the hell out of it. And but I had already got into Iron Maiden before you guys did, because I had the first album and I
So did
saw
I.
just
So
like
did
you
I.
did. Well, I know you did, Steve. I'm talking about the younger guy.
Younger
Okay,
people.
Pops.
Pops.
So, but anyway, and number three for me was Michael Schenker. I love that album. That is a great album. And Cozy Fucking Powell, superb. And one that Lynn mentioned, Styx, Paradise Theater. Saw that tour. That was a great album too. And one that's off the cuff, Trower, BLT. I know people would probably like that one.
I love Trower.
Great choice. Yeah.
That's mine.
Butch.
Well, most of mine have been covered, which is great. I'm very happy that Nick picked Renegade. That's great, because I mentioned that as an honorable mention because it's Lizzy. And I'm glad, Ryan, you made my night saying Spellbound. So that's killer. But yeah, all the other ones were pretty much mentioned. So mine that weren't mentioned, my absolute favorite of this guy's solo record, and Pete knows how I always called myself out that I didn't get it. If I tried, I kept trying with this guy. A lot of my guitar heroes talked about him, and I didn't get it. Frank Marino. Frank Marino, The Power of Rock and Roll.
Yes.
Holy fuck.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
That is a heavy guitar record, kids. Oh shit. I mean, Mahogany Rush is one thing. Frank Marino solo is a whole nother thing. There's no psychedelic shit. Frank is just ripping on that fucking record. Oh my God. Y&T's Earthshaker.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Leonard Hayes. I always talk about Leonard Hayes' right foot. How I absolutely think he had the greatest right foot drumming
He
in
did.
hard rock history.
Yeah.
Everyone talks about Bonham. No, it's Leonard Hayes, without a doubt.
Stop it.
What? Over Bonham? Yeah, you go back and listen to some Y&T. Leonard Hayes, God damn it. Not my favorite of the bands, but this is one of those records I think I've grown to love more as I've gotten older, and I had it when it first came out. UFOs, The Wild, the Willing, and the Innocent.
Solid.
That's Paul Chapman, so that's always great. I have to, someone already said Riot Fire Down Under. That's one of those records that I had in my original 5. I'm like, I listen to this record all the time. It is probably my tied for favorite Riot record. I love it. It's still underground. Still enough people don't know about that record, how awesome it is. Obviously MSG, Schenker, that's awesome. And Lynn just said Priest would, so that's Point of Entry. I've always called that Priest progressive record. And
Yeah, I could.
they've
see
gotten
that.
a lot of shit for that record over the years. And I don't know who just said about taking it over British Steel, but I'll take that over British Steel and
That was me.
Vengeance as far
Yeah.
as
I feel the same way.
honestly.
Yeah.
I like it more.
It's just a great Solar Rangers are just
Definitely.
fucking awesome. So yeah, that's it. Pretty much everything else you guys have kind of mentioned already.
Cool. Nick and Ryan.
Well, since you said his name first, the only one Nick picked for an honorable that was not mentioned was Girls School Hit and Run. Which I think is a great album.
No, didn't Steve say it, didn't he?
Keeler said it.
Steve said Girls School?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah.
Steve.
Yeah, I mentioned that.
My apologies. So I'm going through my list, and yeah, we pretty much covered everything. Another great new wave album that was not mentioned was Demon, Night of the Demon.
Mm.
They had a bunch of albums, but that one's great. The American band Sirith Ungol, I mentioned a couple times. They've been around since
Yes, you have.
72.
Sounds great.
71, but their first album was 81, Frost and Fire.
Yep.
Really good album. And then there was a bunch of old hardcore albums. The Exploited, Punk's Not Dead, and Damaged by Black Flag. And you know what? I'm going through my list. That's pretty. I think we pretty much covered everything. I had a big list too, but
Yeah.
you guys did a pretty bang up job on that. So
And
everything
you
else-
guys already said, someone already said Allied Forces too. That was another one I was looking at.
yeah, I didn't even think Allied Forces.
Because God
in it.
knows I love Rick Emmett.
And
Yes.
But I have a question for you, for Steve and Ryan with Girls School. Is this song Running with the Devil on that? Racing with the Devil, not Running with the Devil, Racing with the
top of
Devil.
my head, I don't remember.
I think that's on Demolition Boys.
Okay, I remember a video for
Don't
that.
touch is on that. I don't have it in front of me to quote a reference right now.
I never
did this
got
at work,
into
but
I never got into Girls School, but I always knew the guitar player's name was Kelly Johnson.
She was awesome.
Yeah.
Rest in peace.
Oh, and Tattoo You by the Stones, which is a great Stones album.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a good record too.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't think anybody mentioned it. We're gonna roll it in there.
I still can't believe that you pulled out The Police, man. That's fabulous.
I still think of all the albums mentioned, this is
Can I
probably the
give
biggest
love?
seller.
That's a great record.
I think we should give love to some disco records.
No.
No,
Wait,
Max,
wait,
You
Not
can
all-
You
give
gotta
love.
go. The show's an hour. Let's go.
Yeah.
All right.
Freeze,
Wrap this
how
the
about
fuck up.
freeze?
My
Let's
dog
go.
is
Give it up,
protesting
Steve,
over
wrap
here.
it up.
Listen.
Here comes the old vaudeville cane to yank you off the stage.
Yeah.
I'm
Time to
just
go,
saying,
folks. Let's wrap it
fucking
up.
Freeze
Hit the
Frame by
mute
Jay
button.
Giles was good.
Yeah.
Freeze Frame was good.
wait a minute. Hold on. Wait a minute. Wasn't Disco long dead by 81?
Disco is dead in 81. Yeah.
Yeah, what year did they burn all the
I
records
like
out in
Freeze
Chicago?
Frame by Jay Giles.
That's not
That's not
disco.
It's not a disco album.
Whatever.
Anyway,
I like
I got a
it.
couple honorables that nobody mentioned, which I'm amazed. I had a
I'm
ton
hoping-
of honorables. How about, and Bryce has got it behind him, Marauder by
Yeah.
Black
Yeah,
Flag, man.
Yeah.
That
Ricky
almost
Medlock.
made my top
was-
five.
yeah.
Great.
Ricky
Great
Medlock,
album.
man. Yeah.
Love that album. Nature of the Beast by April Wine.
Yeah, very
That's a
true.
good
I
one.
can't believe
April Wine.
nobody mentioned No Sleep Till Hammersmith by Motorhead.
Just because it was a live
It's a
record.
live record.
Yeah, but it's still like one of the greatest albums ever.
That's what I thought was
A
going to be your
pox
number
on
one,
us. A
Ryan.
pox on me. I thought
There's
thought-
another,
I thought
there's
maybe that was
another
Ryan's
live
number one.
album that year too.
wasn't on
Pete.
my list because I forgot because I'm a dummy.
Come and Get It by Whitesnake. And last but not least, Double Trouble by Gillan.
I got
Yeah.
one. I got one that was on my list and it was almost my top 5, and I forgot to mention honorable mentions. Except Breaker.
No.
That's a good accept album.
Yeah.
Eh.
How about Belladonna, Stevie Nicks? She's a goddess.
Just the
All
song.
right,
Just
wrap
the
it up.
song Breaker is
All
amazing.
right, folks.
Yeah,
We'll
Storm
see you
Breaker's
next
great.
week.
Good night.
Keep watching Hollywood Hudson Valley Squares. Wherever the fuck. We gotta go.
Belladonna. Belladonna.
Chris has got me on
Well,
the
that
hour.
got double,
I gotta
double
listen.
chef's
I
finger.
got fucking
Yeah,
Dracula
ooh.
movies I gotta watch for fucking Thursday show with Pete. So let's go.
You got an extra week, Chris, because that's not till next week.
Christopher
Oh,
Lee's
what-
waiting, man.
Well, so what's this week?
Trick or treat.
Aha, you have
Oh, all right.
time.
All right. Well, still, I got fucking Dracula I gotta watch.
You
So
got,
let's go.
I was
You
watching
got
the whole
homework.
thing. Thanks for watching, everybody. In the comments below, list your favorite 5 albums from 1981 and any honorable mentions if you like. There's tons to choose from, as you saw. So this is on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook. We're on YouTube. All together. All the damn time. For Lynn Versace, Steve Keeler, Bryce, Chris Allo, Rob Lasante, Butch Jones, Ryan Scow, and Nick, and Cans. I am Pete Pardo. See you all tomorrow on In the Proxy. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.